channel. It means a lot to me, and please continue to share, like, and comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Today's video is going to be talked about another true crime serial killer who I personally think doesn't get enough limelight out there, or doesn't talked about that much compared to the Zodiac or the other serial killers out there. Whereas this guy are Ted Bundy, whereas this serial killer, he was just as, if not more, gruesome than the ones I have mentioned and that we know about in the mainstream media. This video, by looking at the title, is about Robert Hansen, the Butcher Baker, the Alaska serial killer who hunted his victims. That's right, he literally hunted his victims in the wilderness, like the Squid Games. Now I think I know where Squid Games gets their idea from. But yeah, I'm going to speak on about his life story, about what he did and how he did it, and how he was caught and everything. So please stay tuned. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what else you would like to hear, or if there's anything I can fix in the ASMR as well. Thank you. Let's get into it. The Alaskan serial killer Robert Bob Hansen, called the Butcher Baker, killed at least 17 women and violated another 30 over 12 years in the 1970s and early 1980s. He was a quiet-spoken husband and father with a bakery shop in Anchorage, Alaska, who set out to rid his city of female sex workers. Most of his victims were topless dancers and prostitutes who had come to Anchorage during the boom that came in the 1970s with the construction of the 800-mile Trans-Alaska oil pipe. Hansen was supposedly friendly neighborhood baker who turned hunter of women. His hatred of women can be traced back to his younger years, where he was made fun of in school because of his stutter, small size, and because of his facial blemishes caused by acne. He would abduct, violate, and torture his victims when they came in his car or private plane and set them free in the Alaskan wilderness so he could hunt them down in a deranged game of cat and mouse using a Ruger Mini 14 and a knife. He then buried his victims' bodies in the wilderness and marked their graves with an X on the map. Hansen seemed to be the perfect, friendly neighborhood geek who had a dark side and would use his tracking and hunting skills to deadly effect. In appalling ways, the Butcher Baker was something out of a horror movie. Unfortunately, this was not fiction. Who was Robert the Butcher Baker? Robert Hansen, known as Bob, was born in Estherville, Iowa on February 15, 1939. Throughout childhood and adolescence, Hansen was described as being quiet and a loner. He had a difficult relationship with his domineering father, who had emigrated from Denmark to the United States. He expected his son to work at the family bakery at 2 a.m., even on school days. Childhood acquaintance Mike Etcher said his dad was a big, old, mean guy. He was really hard on him. End quote. Hansen found solitary refuge in the woods near his hometown. Near his hometown, he became accomplished hunter tracking game like deer and became skilled with both a rifle and a bow and school bus garage as revenge for his unpopularity in high school. He served 20 months of a 3-year prison sentence in Anamosa State Penitentiary. During his incarceration, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, manic depression, with periodic schizophrenic episodes. The psychiatrist who made the diagnosis noted that Hansen had an infantile personality and was obsessed with getting back at people he felt had wronged him. His wife filed for divorce while he was in prison. In 1962, he was released from prison and married another woman in 1963, Darla Marie Henriksen, a devout Christian. The couple had 2 children and moved to Anchorage in Alaska in 1967, where Hansen opened a bakery and enjoyed hunting in his free time. After the move to Anchorage, he was caught stealing a chainsaw from a hardware store and filing a fraudulent insurance claim to get the money to open his bakery. Darla was a deeply religious woman who earned a master's in education and tutored children for income. She later said she knew Bob was up to no good, but she just thought his dirty secret was picking up hookers in the middle of the night before he opened the bakery. The couple living somewhat separate lives. Darla and the children would regularly go to Arkansas, where her family lived during the summer each year. In Anchorage, he was well liked by his neighbors and set several local hunting records. So, where is Anchorage? Anchorage is in the U.S. state of Alaska on the west coast of the United States, and it contains nearly 40%. Anchorage is in the U.S. state of Alaska on the west coast of the United States and is Alaska's most populous city and contains nearly 40% of the state's population. It is situated at the terminus of Cook Inlet of the peninsula formed by Knik Arm to the north and the Turnagain Arm to the south. Alright, so let's start with the murders in Anchorage. Hansen began preying on women in 1971, 4 years after he's moved to the city, mainly in the strip club area of 4th Avenue in Anchorage. He kidnapped Susie Hepburn, 18 years old, from her apartment in South Anchorage at gunpoint and was later charged with assault with a deadly weapon by a grand jury but served just 3 months in prison. During this time, Darla visited him in jail, kids in tow. She stayed with him enough, though he was verbally abusive to her and the children. A few days after his release, he abducted and violated a topless dancer. He then pulled over in his car and told her to run while pointing his Ruger Mini 14 at her. She begged Hansen not to kill her, and he agreed after making her write down the names and addresses of her family and threatening to hunt down and kill them if she spoke about what had happened. In December 1971, Hansen was arrested twice, once for abduction and attempted rape of a housewife, and again for raping a prostitute. He pleaded no contest to assault with a deadly weapon in the offense involving the housewife, and the rape charge involving the prostitute was dropped as a part of a plea bargain. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. After serving 6 months of his sentence, he was placed on a work release program and released to a halfway house. Yo, this guy has so many breaks and slaps on the wrist. It was it's disgusting. They're setting him up to be a menace to society again. Anyways, Hansen now became more selective with his victims over time, learning from experience to target sex workers and dancers because they were less likely to be reported missing and less likely to be believed by authorities if they reported being raped or attacked. Many of the women were transits who came up to Alaska or runaways, and sometimes they were linked to organized crime. Their families didn't know where they were. On Christmas Day 1971, the naked body of a female college student was found in a ravine near Kenai Peninsula. The topless dancer came forward after hearing about the murder and identified Hansen to authorities. He was arrested but managed to evade justice when his friends and church minister backed him, saying the neighborhood baker was an upstanding member of the community. In 1976, Hansen pleaded guilty to larceny after he was caught stealing a chainsaw from Fred Meyer in Anchorage department store. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and required to receive psychiatric treatment for his bipolar disorder. The Alaskan Supreme Court reduced his sentence, and he was released with served time. Between 1978 to 83, 4 bodies were discovered in the area. The body of an unidentified woman who had been stabbed to death, thought to have been killed in November or December 1979, was found on the Ekulanta Road. Investigators named her Ekulanta Annie. In May 1980, the body of Joanna Messina, found in a gravel pit. In September 1982, a body of Sherry Morrow, discovered buried near the Nick River. And Paula Golding's body was found in the same area in 1983. He took victims to the basement of his home, or took them in his private plane from Merrill Field Airport in Anchorage to his cabin in the Nick River area of the Matanuska Valley. He would return some women to Anchorage, where he let them go on a basis that they wouldn't be believed or wouldn't tell anyone. Other women he would set free along the Nick River and have them run, and Hansen would then stalk and hunt them with his gun and hunting knife. After killing the women, he buried their bodies in the wilderness and marked their graves on an aviation map with an X. He would take trophies such as jewelry and keep them in his basement. The Sidney Paulson attack and escape. On June 13, 1983, Bob Hansen offered sex worker Sidney Paulson, who was 17 years old, $200 to perform oral sex. When she got into the car, he pulled a gun on her and drove her to his home. There he chained her neck to a post and tortured and violated her. He slept on a nearby couch and then put her in his car and took her to the Merrill Field Airport, where he told her that he was taking her to his cabin in the Nick River in Matanuska Valley, accessible only by boat or plane. Sidney placed in the back seat of the car with her wrists handcuffed in front of her body. She saw a chance to escape when Hansen was busy loading the plane, and when his back was turned, she opened the driver's side door and ran toward nearby 6th Avenue. Hansen began chasing her. She managed to flag down a passing truck driven by Robert Yount. He drove her to the Mush Inn, and then she pleaded with the clerk to phone her boyfriend at the Big Timber Motel. Yount continued on to work, where he called the police to report the incident. Anchorage police arrived at the Mush Inn, but Sidney had taken a cab to Big Timber Motel. APD officers arrived at room 110 of the Big Timber Motel and found her, still handcuffed and alone, where she was taken to police headquarters. She described Hansen she was a young sex worker. But the house was quickly identified as belonging to Bob Hansen. When questioned by APD officers, Hansen denied Sydney's accusations, saying she was just trying to cause trouble for him because he would not give her extra money. Hansen's manner, along with an alibi from his friend John Henning, kept him from being considered as a serious suspect, and the case went cold. The FBI Special Agent John Douglas requested help with the criminal psychological profile of the crimes that had been committed in the area. And based on the 3 recovered bodies, Douglas thought the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, having a history of being rejected by women, and would feel compelled to keep souvenirs of his murders. He also suggested that the assailant might stutter. Using this profile, Hansen was again in the frame. Based on the FBI report and Sydney's testimony, the police got a warrant to search Hansen's plane, home, and vehicles. On October 27, 1983, investigators uncovered jewelry belonging to some of the missing women, as well as several firearms in the hideaway of Hansen's attic. Also found an aeronautical chart with a little X marks on it, hidden behind Hansen's headboard. Many of these marks matched sites where prior bodies had been found. Others were discovered later. Hansen was arrested and confronted with the new evidence found in his home, eventually confessing to each item of evidence as it was presented to him. He admitted to a spree of attacks against Alaskan women starting in 1971. Bob Hansen showed authorities 17 grave sites on the map and confessed to 17 murders in total. Only 12 bodies were ever found. Many believe he killed more than 24, because that's how many X's were discovered. The victims of Bob Hansen are included, such as the following: Lisa Futrell, 44, disappeared September 6, 1980. Body found May 9th, 1984, just south of Old Nick Bridge. Malaya Larson, 28, disappeared 1980 to 1983. Body found April 24th, 1984. Sue Luna, 23. Tamara Tammy Patterson. Her body was also found 1.5 miles from Oak Nick Bridge. Angela Fetter, 24. Body found in April 26th, Figure 8 Lake. Teresa Watson, Dylan Sugar Frey, and her body was found by a pilot testing new tires on the sandbar of Nick River. Paula Golding disappeared April 25th, 1983. Body found September 6, 1983 in a shallow grave on the bank of Nick River. She had been shot in the back, but there were no bullet holes in her clothing, suggesting she had been shot while nude and then redressed before being buried. Andrea Elitri disappeared December 2nd. Her body was never found. Sherry Morrow disappeared November 17th, 1981. Body found in a shallow grave on the bank of Nick River. She had been shot in the back, but no bullet holes in her clothing, indicating she had been shot while nude and redressed before being buried. Ekulanta Annie. Body found in a shallow grave off Ekulanta Lake Road. Joanna Messina. Decomposed body found in a grave pit. Horseshoe Harriet Roxanne Eastland. Hansen confessed to her killing, but her body was never found. Celia Beth Van Satin, body found in December 25th. Hansen denied killing her, but is suspected because of an X on his aviation map. Same with Megan Emmerich. Mary Dill. Hansen also denied her, but is suspected because of the X. He also confessed to raping 30 other women. Hansen was convicted of only 4 murders. Equilante Annie, that's not her actual real name, Sherry Morrow, Joanna Messina, Paula Golding, and sentenced to 461 years in prison plus life in 1984. Prosecutor Frank Rothschild described him as an evil genius and told how during interrogation, Hansen transformed before his eyes a little nerdy guy into there are certain evil geniuses there. Sorry. This is what he quoted. Rothschild quoted. This is a quote from Rothschild. There's a certain evil genius there. The person who had killed all these women. I guess these serial killer types tend to be smart in a way. If they were truly smart, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But they're evil. They're smart, evil people. End quote. When pushed by the police, Hansen, but all of a sudden his neck turned all red, and his hair stood up in the back of his neck, and he transformed into the person who had killed all these women. Right in front of our eyes, he got really, really angry. Hansen died August 21st, 2014, in Anchorage at the age of 75 from natural causes. Let me know what you guys think about this case and why it never is publicly televised like the other stories. Because what this guy did and how he was able to get away for most of his life, just doing time served for a few months and then getting a slap on his wrist. I guess back then, not many people really looked at the signs compared to now. We're able to see what a kid's gonna be like in a way. And we're more prone, we're more talkative about mental health issues compared to back then. And so I think it's a little bit better now, but still, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think serial killers are born, or are serial killers made into serial killers as they grow older? Let me know what you think about that one. Once again, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe.